Hi everyone. Well, it's that time of year again when everybody's asking me on the gate, which class is my child going to be in next year? Who's going to be their teacher? So I get to tell you today how we're going to be structuring the school over the next year. Hopefully you've managed to come to the presentation in the hall, which is pretty much this. If you haven't, this video is for you. This will be the same as the presentation I'll do in the hall to those people who can come along. Let's crack on as quickly as we can and we can see what's happening next year. If you look at this slide here, in the mornings, you can see that we're teaching pretty much the same way as we have been in the mornings this last year. We've got a joint reception in Year 1 class, and that's going to be taught by Miss Sahabandhu, who's returned after her maternity leave, and it's great to see her back at school. We'll have a Year 2 class, which is going to be led by Miss Akhtar, a Year 3 class led by Miss Daniel, a Year 4 class led by Mrs. Khan, Year 5 class led by Mrs. Shah, and a Year 6 class led by Mrs. Jude. I will say Year 5 and Year 6, each of those classes will have one morning a week that's led by Mr. Holness to allow Mrs. Shah and Mrs. Jude to come out and do some of their leadership duties around school. They are, after all, the assistant head teachers and help me run the school very well. So in the mornings, we're going to be teaching what we call our core subjects: reading, writing, maths and phonics. Those are being taught directly to each child's own particular year group by their own teacher. And we know the only mixed class there is reception in Year 1, and we know that works because we've been running a very successful similar model this year. The children have thrived in the way that we've presented the curriculum there. So we're going to be using that model again in the mornings in the year coming. As I said, welcome back to Miss Sahabandhu. You may notice that we're missing, sorry, I keep pointing with the wrong finger, this camera's mirrored. We're missing Miss Ahmed there. That's because Miss Ahmed has been with us this year to cover for Miss Sahabandhu's maternity leave, and she's going to be leaving us at the end of term. We'll say a proper farewell to her before the end of term. But Miss Sahabandhu's back, and the other teachers you know. By teaching like this, we know that we can target great standards for those core subjects, and those are the subjects that are the foundations and the strong beginnings of all the other teaching that we do here in school. So a successful model that we know works. In the afternoons though, things are going to be ever so slightly different because Mrs. Shah and Mrs. Jude, they need to be out of class from time to time to support the teaching and learning around the school and to support the running of the school. So in order to do that, what we're going to have to do is combine some classes together. If you look just below here, what you'll see there is that the reception in Year 1, they're going to stay as they are. The Year 2, they're going to stay as they are. So that reception in Year 1 class made up of 8 reception children, 6 Year 1 children. They'll stay as a class with Miss Sahabandhu. The 19 Year 2s, they're just going to stay as a confined group themselves, because Year 2 is a very important year for us. That's where we get the children out of Key Stage 1 and ready for Key Stage 2, where the demands on them are that bit higher. So Miss Akhtar knows the cohort of children that she's taken up to Year 2, and we know that Miss Akhtar can have them ready by the end of Year 2, ready for the demands of Key Stage 2, which means the children are going to have to be that bit more independent and a bit more grown up. They'll be ready with Miss Akhtar's help. Now, to allow Mrs. Shah and Mrs. Jude to come out of class and to get on with their leadership duties, we are taking the 20 Year 3s and 10 of the Year 4s and creating a composite class there with Miss Daniel. So Miss Daniel in the afternoon will have 30 children made up of 10 Year 4s and 20 Year 3s. Similarly, the remaining 15 Year 4s and the 15 of the Year 5s, they'll join together to create a class of 30 in the afternoon with Mrs. Khan. The remaining 12 Year 5s and the 17 Year 6s, they'll be in a composite class in the afternoon, taught either by Mrs. Shah or Mrs. Jude, with the other one of them being out on leadership duties. What do we do in the afternoon? That's when we teach our history, the geography, science, technology, art, all of these subjects, PE and computing. The one that will be slightly different is on a Wednesday. On a Wednesday afternoon, everybody's going to stay exactly the same as they are in the morning, because that will allow us to take people swimming in the afternoon. It will allow us to have music lessons taught to specific year groups, and it will then also allow us to teach RE as a class-specific topic, and that's really important to us as a church school. RE is one of our core subjects. It's a subject that we get monitored very closely on, so we'll be able to teach that as a year group specific subject. Why are we doing this? I've already said one of the reasons is we need to release Mrs. Shah or Mrs. Jude to get on with their leadership duties. We won't have Mr. Holness 5 days a week as we have had over the past couple of years. Mr. Holness is going back down to 3 days a week, and part of his duty will be covering Mrs. Shah and Mrs. Jude to let them get out on leadership, but also covering other teachers to give them a bit of release time to do leadership duties or to do their assessments and so on. So Mr. Holness still going to be a huge part of the team. He's going to be leading on computing and PE as he has done for the past while as well. The other reason that we're having to have these combined classes is just sheer numbers. If you look at the numbers of the children that we've got, 8 reception children, 6 year 1s, 19 year 2s, 20 year 3s, 25 and 27, those are good sized classes, but 17 year 6s. It's an unfortunate thing to say, but it's getting to the stage where we cannot afford to have a teacher in front of each class. 8 reception children wouldn't pay for a reception teacher. There's no way. If you think we've got 122 children on the books for next year, hopefully we'll get a few more over the summer. But if each of those is worth £6,000, that brings in £732,000. Now, our spending last year just on classroom staff was £960,000. So you can see we've got a shortfall there to make up. This year, I am not making anybody redundant. We are not losing any members of staff. What we're having to do is be ultra creative with the rest of the budget that we're given in order to keep the staffing at a ratio where we can provide the best education that we can for your children. As a side note, if we were full, that our budget would start off at £1.2 million, and then we got all the extras on top of that. So just by having so few children, we are £500,000 short in the budget. So if you happen to know of any people across the year groups looking for a space in a school, in a very good school that gets great results, and in a very good school where children are looked after really closely, point them in the direction of Christchurch. We could really do with the children joining our school here. I've been thinking about, what the benefits of these mixed classes, how are they going to benefit the children? Well, apart from them being in their own classes in the morning, where they get to be with their own peers, their own cohort, if you like, in the afternoons, they're going to be working in mixed groupings. So that gives them, it's going to teach them more confidence, and it's going to give them the skill of supporting themselves and supporting each other in their learning. Supports both independence and teamwork. It allows engaging, well-planned learning across the subjects, because what we're doing in the afternoons is planning those foundation subjects, history, geography, history, geography and science and so on. We're planning them at groups of children who are much of a muchness in the way of ability. So your child will be catered for really well there. Just some frequently asked questions when schools do this. Trying to preempt questions that you'll ask. Will my child fall behind? Are they going to miss anything? The answer to that is no. The assistant heads, Mrs. Shah and Mrs. Jude and myself and Miss Baverstock, we've been looking very carefully at curriculum. We've been looking carefully at things like opening worlds, which we use for history and geography. We've been looking at White Rose, which we use for our science teaching. We've been looking at the various schemes of work that we use in the afternoon, and we've planned a very well structured curriculum that covers the entire national curriculum, and it'll be done in a rolling programme. So as you move up through the years, you're not actually going to miss anything, but the benefit is you're not going to be taught something at a level that's maybe too complicated for you. You're going to be taught at a level that's accessible yet challenging for you. Will the work be too easy or hard? Similar to the last question. We've been working with all of our teaching staff on something called adaptive teaching. And adaptive teaching is where you start planning a lesson or a series of lessons for a core group of children, and then you adapt it to support the less able children at one end and challenge for the more able children at the other end. That's easier to do if you've got a group of children who start off with not too broad a spectrum of learning. The way our children are in class at the moment and the way we've chosen to combine the groups in the next year in the afternoons, we'll start off with that core group of children who should be easier to adapt the learning for. So the work won't be too easy for some and too hard for the others. There'll be just the right amount of challenge in there for everybody. Will the children feel secure? Well, yes, is the answer to that. Plain and simply yes. All of our children know each other. They see each other in the playground. They look after each other very well, and they adapt very quickly to new situations. As I pointed out, they'll be with their home class, if you like, in the mornings. They'll be with their peers in the mornings. They may be, the Key Stage 2 children may be mixed up in the afternoon with other children from a different year group, but it'll be children of a similar ability. So the teachers are going to be setting learning tasks where they're actually working, and you won't know whether this is a year 3 or a year 4 child, or a year 4 or a year 5 or a year 5 or a year 6 child. They'll be working in groups and at levels that support each other. So it'll actually build more friendships and help the children to become more confident across the school. Can I talk to somebody about this? Of course you can. You know I'm always on the gates. When I'm here at school, I'm always on the gate. You can come and talk to me on the gate. You can phone the office, ask to talk to either of the assistant head teachers or Miss Baverstock, or ask to talk to me. We can arrange to meet with you. Hopefully, you will be able to answer any of the questions that you can come up with. This has taken an awful lot of thought. We've been looking at models that other schools use when they've gone down to low numbers in classes as well. And this is a model that's been proven to work across the country, and more schools are having to go down this model as we have a shortage of birth rate. Again, one thing I want to just say is that these low numbers, point with the right finger, these low numbers are nothing to do with the school, it's to do with the low birth rate. It's not because we are doing anything wrong and people are just not coming here. Small schools like ours are losing children. Big schools are losing children, but it doesn't seem like such a big gap for them because they have more classes still than we do. So a plea to you, if you do know of anybody who's got children that need a space in school, point them in the direction of Christ Church. We're a cracking school, and I'm not just saying that because I'm the head teacher. I thoroughly believe this is a great school. If I had children, I'd be sending them here myself. I think it's a brilliant school, and the children here get such good teaching and learning and such amazing care from all of the staff. We are really confident that we can make this model work. We've already been making it work, as I've said, in the current year 5 and 6 and when they were year 4 and 5, and we've been making it work in the current reception year 1. Please do come and ask us questions, do come and talk to us, and hopefully we can prove to you how it's going to work. Anyway, I hope that's explained who your class teachers are going to be next year and how the school is going to be structured. I'm going to leave it there for now. Come and talk to me if you've got questions, and I'll finish by just saying thank you so much for all your support this year. Take care everybody. Bye bye. See you soon.